The Mass Broadcasters Hall of Fame is indeed the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame. So it's important to remember that Massachusetts extends well beyond the borders of Boston or even Worcester or even Springfield. So please pay attention to this next video, which will focus on what I just mentioned.
Take the pictures and I'll take care of my end from this end on, okay? Their message quite different from the one given inside by the pro-life people.
Well, Kathy, the best that can be said about Gloria is that she is gone.
This is the area of the Good Fence. It's located on the Israeli-Lebanese border. President Reagan leaving the exhibition hall now here at the Springfield Civic Center.
Ray Hershel is there and joins us now live from Capitol Hill. Ray?
Okay, thank you very much, Priscilla. Obviously, the war consumes much of the discussion here in Washington. As you can see behind me, the first real signs of Hurricane Bob are evident. The winds have picked up considerably here at Woods Hole, but they realize the students today received a lesson they cannot learn from a textbook.
Our crew headed on to Kuwait to deliver its cargo. Soon the C-5s could be delivering humanitarian aid to Baghdad. His successor, Pope Benedict, listened. And on Sunday, Pope John Paul will be beatified. So even the possibility of a tornado, even though it's a remote one, still sends an uneasy feeling to those who have lived through one in the past. Reporting in Springfield, I'm Ray Hershel, Western Mass News.
And here to present Ray is a gentleman who was presented with the honor last year. Please welcome from that area, Dave Madsen. Dave?
Thank you, Jordan. Good afternoon. Greetings from Western Massachusetts. We still exist because we have a casino now. It is a pleasure to be with you again this year to present my friend and now retired colleague, Ray Hershel, for induction into the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame. To all of us, he's Ray. To Springfield Mayor Dominic Sarno, he's Ray the Hair Hershel. And if you noticed, Ray covered a hurricane, I think that was, 1986 or whatever. Ray's hair did not move. It's one of his claims to fame, and he still has a great head of hair today. You know, there is no one more deserving of a place in the Broadcasting Hall of Fame, the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame, than Ray. In April, Ray retired after 50 years of reporting the news to the people of Western Massachusetts, first on radio and for most of his career in TV. 50 years in this business is remarkable. What makes it even more remarkable is that Ray's entire career was spent at one place, WGGB TV, TV 40, now CBS 3 and Fox 6, at 1300 Liberty Street in Springfield. 50 years at one station. The station owners and call letters may have changed through the years, but the one constant in our viewers' lives for 50 years was Ray Hershel. For a number of years, Ray and I were competitors. But you didn't really compete with Ray. What you did was you strived to come close to the high standards that Ray set for reporting and anchoring the news. I was fortunate that to witness that each and every day as we worked together for the last 27 years. Ray came to then WHYN Radio in April of 1968. Within a few years, he moved to the TV side, first reporting and then anchoring the evening broadcasts on Channel 40. Through solid reporting day in and day out, Ray built and earned the trust of our viewers in Western Mass, a trust and responsibility that Ray never ever took for granted and was the cornerstone for every interview he did and every story he wrote. Newsmakers wanted to be interviewed by Ray. They knew he could be trusted and would tell the story the right way. Never flashy, just good, solid reporting. And our viewers were the ones who recognized and benefited from that trust each and every day, knowing that if Ray said it was true, it is true. There's no question that Ray could have taken his talents to a bigger market, but Ray put his family over his career, and they chose to remain in Western Mass, he and Maureen, where he was born and raised, and where they raised a wonderful family. The bottom line, Ray Hershel is not only a good reporter and a good anchor, he's a good man. It is my honor to introduce my colleague and friend, and now a member of the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame, Ray Hershel.
My friend and colleague Dave Madsen, thank you very much. Can I just share one quick story with you about Dave? Our careers are very similar. We were born in Western Massachusetts, spent our professional careers in Western Massachusetts. I for 50 years, Dave getting close to 50 years. So you can understand how people would recognize us facially and say, you're the guy on TV, seen you on the news. And for some reason, oftentimes they would confuse our names. They would call Dave Ray and vice versa. And sometimes it's a little irritating, but it can work to your advantage. One quick story, back in 1984, I was covering the Democratic National Convention in San Francisco. After a long day on the convention floor, our photographer and myself were walking back to our hotel room. We passed a gentleman's club. Standing on the sidewalk was a bouncer and one of the dancers. And as we walked by, she said, "Hey, you're on television." And I did a double take. I'm thinking, where is this going now? So I said, we're from Massachusetts. How do you know us? And she said, well, I worked in Hartford for many years at one of the clubs there, and I remember seeing you on the news doing the TV news from Springfield. And I could see the wheels turning. The wheels were turning, scratching her head. And finally she said, I know you are Dave Madsen. And I said, sometimes it's good when they confuse the names. As I stand here today, I am extremely honored and grateful to be inducted by the Mass Broadcasters Hall of Fame. I want to thank Peter Brown, the entire board of directors, for bestowing this honor on me. My congratulations to all our fellow inductees. What a great group this is today, and I am proud to stand here today with you. And I'm especially honored to be included in the class that's honoring Lana Jones posthumously. I'm from Western Massachusetts, so I didn't get an opportunity to know Lana as well as some of my colleagues from Eastern Mass. However, we did meet on several occasions, usually at the State House when I was covering the news there. And Lana, I don't have to tell you, was just a wonderful person, a consummate professional. I remember one occasion, Lana was covering the anniversary of the 2011 tornado that swept through Western Massachusetts. We were in Munson. I and my photographer were driving up the side of a mountain to do an interview with the homeowner on top who rebuilt his house. Lana was going up top too. Terrain was steep and winding, and since Lana was in her car, we offered her a ride in our SUV. We had an extra seat there. What a wonderful journey, albeit too short, up that bumpy and winding road. You couldn't have met a nicer person to spend some time with than Lana. I can't tell you how enjoyable it was to speak with her just for a few minutes, tell you what a beautiful person she was. Gratitude is one word that keeps coming back to me today. The gratitude that Lana, for example, showed that day as we gave her a ride up the mountain. My gratitude for having met such a great journalist and human being. And I would just like her family to know that she is not forgotten, that Lana's legacy does in fact live on. As Dave mentioned, I recently retired after 50 years of radio and TV in Springfield. I grew up in Western Mass, so it was a pleasure for me to work in my hometown area. On this particular day, I'm thinking not only of where I am today, but how in the world I got here. Some defining moments along the way, and so much support from many people, my colleagues, my friends, my family, and all those people who work behind the camera to make those in front of the camera do their job better. I want to thank you all. We've got a group from Western Mass News here today, right at table 5. Some of these people I've worked with for a number of years, and they are the best of the best themselves. I want to thank them for all they do to help people like me who are in front of the camera. Thank you very much, here, folks. And I'd like to single out another person at table 5, my wife, Maureen. She was the glue that kept our family together when I was working nights, weekends, and all those crazy hours as a young reporter. We met by chance. Her sister Margaret was the receptionist at the station when I first started there. We were introduced, we started dating, and boy, did we hit it off well. We were engaged within a couple of months. We were married within a year. And today, I'm happy to say Maureen and I have been married for 48 years. We have 3 wonderful children and 6 beautiful grandchildren. Maureen, would you kindly stand? You know, a lot's going through my mind today, and I know we're very limited on time, so I will try to keep this as brief as I can. But I keep coming back to that word gratitude. I'll forever be grateful to my parents for working so hard to send me through college. I was the first in my family to go to college. A high school English teacher who was instrumental in my decision to go to Emerson College, one of the best decisions I ever made. And speaking of Emerson, it's been a great week for the class of '67. How about that? I am standing here being inducted into the Broadcasters Hall of Fame, and my fraternity brother and classmate Henry Winkler the Fonz got an Emmy this week. It doesn't get much better than that. In my freshman year at Emerson, another defining moment. The day was November 22nd of 1963, a dark day in American history when President Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas. At the Berkeley Beacon, our college newspaper, our staff put together just a one-page edition of that information we had gathered. Several of us quickly walked out on Beacon Street, handed out this special edition to cars that had stopped at Berkeley and Beacon Streets, giving them the first written word about that tragedy in Dallas. I think it was that moment that solidified my decision to go on and become a reporter. When I graduated from Emerson, I was ready to go, ready to work anywhere. Ironically, that job came at WHYN Radio TV in Springfield, literally a stone's throw from where I grew up as a kid. And none of us will ever forget the person who hired you for that first job. Durham Caldwell was the news director at WHYN at the time. He saw some potential in this young kid from Emerson. He was highly respected, no-nonsense news director. Not only my boss, but a wonderful mentor as well. Give you a little perspective, it was 1968. 2 weeks before I was hired, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in Memphis. 2 months after I was on the job, Bobby Kennedy got assassinated in Los Angeles. Protests were heating up over the Vietnam War. The Democratic National Convention turned violent in Chicago that year. And civil rights demonstrations are going on all over Springfield. Here I was, a cub reporter in the #1 station in the market. Baptism under fire, but thank goodness, my lucky stars, I had mentors like Durham Caldwell to help me along the way. And HYN was a great position for me too, because I transitioned from radio onto television, where I spent the rest of my career. And as I conclude today, I know time is up, let me finish by saying that whether you're trying to break the story of a presidential assassination with nothing more than a typewriter and a photocopier, or you're trying to land your first job fresh out of college, even if you're hoping to find your soulmate, simply trying to get up a bumpy, winding road, or being honored with induction to the Broadcasters Hall of Fame, one thing is certain: you cannot do it alone. And for all those who were there with me over this wonderful journey today, I am truly grateful. Thank you very much.